Namaste. Today I'd like to speak with you about how the Golden Age will come about through the union of East and West, ancient Eastern wisdom and modern technology coming together. This process of transformation began in the year 1893. When Swami Vivekananda traveled by boat to America and spoke at the World Parliament of Religions in Chicago, Illinois. This was the beginning of a major cultural transformation. Of course, Vivekananda was the disciple of Paramahansa Ramakrishna, one of the greatest saints in the history of India. This was the beginning, but after that speech, which was extremely positively accepted, a series of great masters from the East came to America and Europe. They came from India, Nepal, Tibet, China, Korea, and there was a wave of interest in America and the Western world in Eastern spirituality. I was part of that. In my youth, when I was just a teenager, growing up in the 1960s, there was not a single yoga studio in America. Can you believe that? It's true. There was not a single yoga studio. And now, today, there are not just hundreds, there are thousands of yoga studios all across America, and millions of Americans have learned to meditate and practice yoga. That has happened in my lifetime. There was a wave of interest in Eastern spirituality. But there were some people who came before that to the East. One of the most important, who we consider to be a role model, was Alexandra David Neal. She went to India in 1900, and she spent much of her adult life in India and Nepal and Tibet. She even secretly traveled all the way to Lhasa, Tibet, to meet with the Dalai Lama at a time when it was illegal for foreigners to enter Tibet. And she lived in a cave in the Himalayas, studying esoteric Buddhism, Vajrayana Buddhism. She lived to be 101 years old, and she wrote many books about her experiences, learning from the great masters. Another individual who was a great inspiration to us, and we consider to be a role model, was Nicholas Roerich. Nicholas Roerich and his wife Helena were mystics and visionaries. Nicholas was a very accomplished painter who painted thousands of paintings of the Himalayas. And they made a 3-year expedition throughout Asia, starting all the way at the southern tip of India, Kanyakumari, traveling all the way up to Ladakh, traveled to Nepal, Tibet, across China, and all the way to Mongolia and back. Then they settled in the Kulu Valley in the town of Nagar. And they created an institute to study Asian cultures and medicinal herbs. They were a great inspiration, and today we consider them to be our role models. There were other Westerners who opened the door so that Eastern wisdom could flow into Western civilization. W.Y. Evans Wentz, who published the Tibetan Book of the Dead, and also Tibetan Yoga and Secret Doctrines, and Lama Anagarika Govinda, who was also a very accomplished student of the Eastern wisdom. So these people were the pathfinders. They were those who opened the door. At that time, during their lives, Western civilization was extremely materialistic, and very few people knew anything about Eastern wisdom. But these brave souls journeyed throughout Asia at a time when it was not as easy as it is today. They didn't travel on airplanes. The Roriks traveled on horseback throughout Asia. So they opened the door, and Eastern wisdom began to flow into Western civilization. One of the people who was touched by this was Steve Jobs. When Steve Jobs was a freshman at Reed College, he read Be Here Now by Ram Dass, and then Autobiography of a Yogi by Yogananda. And he read Ramakrishna and his disciples. And then he read a book called Cosmic Consciousness by Buck. I read all those same books, and they touched me in the same way that they touched Steve Jobs. Steve Jobs felt a calling to go to India, and he went to India. He met with Haidakun Babaji, a great saint who lives in the same area that we're starting our eco village in. And he also visited the ashram of Neem Karoli Baba, also in the Kumaon Hills. When Steve Jobs came back from India, he was transformed. He had received an empowerment. He had received an initiation from Haidakun Babaji. And when he returned to California, he started Apple Computer, along with Steve Wozniak. The Apple II computer was the very first personal computer available to the general public. And of course, you know the rest of the story. He invented, at Apple, the iPod, iPad, the iPhone, and all of the technology that has transformed life on Earth, actually. Steve Jobs read Autobiography of a Yogi every single year since that first time that he read it. Every year he would reread it. And when he finally passed away, everyone who attended his memorial service received a box. And in that box was a copy of Autobiography of a Yogi. So you can see how the Eastern wisdom transformed him and was instrumental in the technological revolution that occurred. And now we feel that it's time for the favor to be returned back to India. India has produced more enlightened individuals than any country in the entire world. For thousands of years, there have been great, fully realized enlightened masters in India, and the very earth there is permeated with their spiritual energy. In 2010, my wife and I visited a great master living in a cave in the Himalayas. At that point, he was 123 years old. Recently, he turned 132 years old. I asked him, even though I knew the answer, but I wanted to hear it from him. I asked him, what are the great Himalayan masters doing up here in the Himalayas? And he said, through their meditations, their prayers, and their mantras, they are sending out powerful, positive vibrations of energy to bless and care for all beings on earth. And then he paused, And then he added, not only the earth, all beings throughout the universe. There are, high in the Himalayas, today, as I speak, right now, there are great enlightened masters living throughout the Himalayas. We call them the Council of Sages. They are a network of enlightened beings. Mahavatar Babaji is one of them. And they have been, from behind the scenes, fostering the spiritual evolution of humanity. They have, for thousands and thousands of years, been supporting the evolution of human consciousness. Humanity is not an end product. Humanity is a work in progress. And these great enlightened beings want to uplift the consciousness of humanity. And this is who we work for. My wife and I have dedicated our lives to uplifting human consciousness. And we work for them, the Council of Sages. We're creating an eco-village called Mahamudra Eco-Village in the Himalayas in order to bring about the cultural evolution of Indian society. We believe that India has a great gift to give the world. We believe that India, that has been the home of so many enlightened individuals, is in the position now to give to the entire world what the world needs most, and that is the knowledge of how to develop human consciousness to its full potential. Humanity is faced with so many problems these days. Climate change, how to provide clean water to everyone on earth, how to feed everyone on earth, how to overcome hatred and violence, war and terrorism. And we believe that the solution to all of those problems is for humanity to rise to a higher level of consciousness. And the great saints and sages of India are the experts in how to do that. So what we're doing at our Mahamudra Eco-Village in the Himalayas is we are providing the sustainability skills that are so needed in the world today. How to grow food organically without pesticides that cause cancer. How to care for the very earth sustainability, the very earth that nourishes us and gives us our life. So we're beginning this eco-village and a school to educate Himalayan girls, because we believe that the girls living in the Himalayas who have virtually no education, many are from extremely poor families, we want to teach them the skills that they need to enter into the modern workforce. So we'll be teaching them English as well as Hindi and computer skills so that they can get jobs in the modern workforce and break out of the cycle of poverty that their families have been trapped in. So this is what we're doing at the Mahamudra Eco-Village in the Himalayas. And there's a website that you can visit. And we invite you to join with us in the creation of a better world for future generations. Namaste.